Okay, so today I will talk you briefly about utility workflows. So first, let's start about introduction. What is a workflow? Not taking utility into account yet. So basically, workflow is a sequence of steps which are executed in order. You can see it here. And also environment variables, stack. It can be Linux stack or Mac OS various versions, and also triggers. Trigger, for example, on pull request creation or push or tag, push branch and push tag. There are also a few other, let's say, configurations, sources like code signing and secrets, but they are not workflow specific. And the workflows has ability to be chained. You can insert the before run and after run properties, and as you can see here, there is a PR workflow, which stands for pull request, and we have a prepare workflow, which in this case clones Git repo and pulls the Bitrise cache, and we have also publish results workflow, which this is not visible, but it's just deploy results. And this prepare and publish results workflow can be reused. So you can have more than one main workflow like PR, and you can share the prepare along two or more workflows. So you don't need to repeat that common steps like git clone and bitrise cache pull. I will show it on an example shortly. Okay, so this was about normal workflows, and what are utility workflows? Let's start from definition. So utility workflows can't be run directly. They cannot have a trigger, but there is a star. In fact, they can have a trigger, but that trigger is not fully functional. I will explain it shortly. And what distinguish normal workflows from utility workflows, it's its name. They starts with underscore. And what is important, that utility workflows keeps executing on the same stack as the workflow, which, let's say, it parent workflow. This is true also for the non-utility chained workflows by before run and after run. Okay, so let's jump into utility workflows directly. If you open the Bitrise.io website application page on the run pop-up, you can see that you can choose a workflow to be run, and utility workflows are also here, but they are grayed out. They cannot be started. So that's the first difference between utility workflows and the normal regular workflows. And what can they be used for? Basically for aggregating common groups of actions, groups of steps, like git cloning, activating SSH key for git connection, pulling the cache. This group is executed before the actual build, before the main steps, and they can also be used at the end. For example, for sending notifications to Slack, Teams, email. They can deploy results to Bitrise.io and other services like App Center or Play Store, and also can be used for cache pushing. Interesting example is in the Gradle Runner official step. Let's look at it. Yeah, there are this workflow, CI workflow doesn't use utility workflows, but as you can see, it has no steps. It only consists in chained workflows, children workflows, before run and after run, and it contains no steps. All these steps are located in the children workflows. Okay, let's go back into presentation, and here's the example. It is from the one of the real commercial apps which I am working on. So we have a prepare workflow which does the steps which are executed before every other normal workload. We first save the build start time, it's used for internal analytics, and then, as usual, activate the SSH key, clone git repo to get the code. Sorry. Then we fetch a tags. This is needed for internal checks, and pull the Bitrise IO cache. And then normal workflow executes. It can be a workflow for PR, which does the unit tests, static code analysis, etc. Or it can be a deploy build, which deploys build after merge to the App Center. And at the end of each workflow, no matter if PR or deploy, we calculate the build duration using the build start time server saved here, and we send the build status to Slack. Okay, utility workflows are cool, but there are a few traps which you should be aware of. If you list the workflows in using the CLI by command Bitrise workflows, it will also show utility workflows. And you can see that it says that you can run this workflow, but using Bitrise run prepare. Okay, let's check what happens if I try to run the utility workflow. Okay. Yeah, I have the same projects. So utility workflows. And for example, I try to run prepare. Yeah, it says that it is runnable, but unfortunately it cannot be run because utility workflows can be triggered directly. Yeah, so that's the issue with Bitrise CLI. The second trap is the selector of stack. If you go to the configuration page on Bitrise.io, you can choose the stack for all the workflows, including the utility workflows, but this selection here is meaningless because utility workflows keeps executing on the same workflow on which build has started. Yeah, and the last trap is that build cannot be triggered if the utility workflow is an entry point. But in fact, it starts, but it just fails at the beginning. You cannot set a trigger to the utility workflow, but if you rename it, prepending it with underscore, and the trigger for that workflow exists before that rename, after renaming, the trigger will still be valid, but will be not non-functional. Yeah, and that's all about utility workflows.